Right now, as you're watching this, someone is walking into a room and instantly commanding the attention and respect of everyone present. They haven't said a word yet, but every person in that space already knows they're dealing with someone different, someone important, someone who operates on a level that 99% of people will never understand. Meanwhile, someone else just walked into that same type of room and was completely ignored, dismissed before they even opened their mouth. Treated as invisible, irrelevant, forgettable. The cruel reality is that respect isn't earned over months or years of proving yourself. It's granted or withheld in the first 7 seconds of any interaction. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Respect isn't about being the nicest person in the room. It's not about being the most qualified, and it's definitely not about waiting your turn and hoping people notice your good work. Respect is about understanding the invisible psychological triggers that make people's brains automatically categorize you as either someone who matters or someone who doesn't. The top 1% of respected individuals know secrets that the other 99% are completely blind to. They understand that human beings are still primitive creatures operating on ancient survival programming. When someone meets you, their subconscious brain is asking one fundamental question. Is this person above me or below me in the social hierarchy? And that answer determines everything about how they'll treat you. Most people spend their entire lives being treated as average, overlooked, or dismissed because they never learned how to flip these psychological switches. They think respect comes from being agreeable, from putting others first, from slowly building credibility over time. But while they're playing the long game, the people who understand instant respect are already winning every interaction, getting better opportunities, and living life on an entirely different level. Today, you're going to learn the exact psychological mechanisms that create instant respect. You'll discover why some people naturally command attention while others fade into the background. More importantly, you'll get the specific techniques that will make anyone anywhere immediately recognize you as someone who deserves their respect. This isn't about manipulation or fake confidence tricks. This is about understanding human psychology at its deepest level and aligning yourself with the natural patterns that create authority and influence. By the end of this video, you'll have the blueprint that separates the top 1% from everyone else. Chapter 1: The Neuroscience of Instant Respect. Every human interaction begins with an instantaneous neurological process that most people are completely unaware of. The moment someone sees you, their brain activates what neuroscientists call the threat detection system. This ancient mechanism developed over millions of years of evolution is scanning for one critical piece of information. Should I submit to this person or should they submit to me? This process happens faster than conscious thought. In approximately 150 milliseconds, less time than it takes to blink, the human brain has already made fundamental decisions about your status, competence, and worthiness of respect. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, is evaluating hundreds of micro-signals, including your posture, facial expressions, voice tone, energy levels, and spatial positioning to determine your place in the social hierarchy. Here's the crucial part that changes everything. This isn't a conscious decision. The person you're meeting isn't thinking about whether to respect you. Their brain is automatically categorizing you based on evolutionary programming that prioritizes survival and social positioning. If their subconscious brain detects signals of high status and competence, they will feel a natural inclination to respect and defer to you. If it detects signals of low status or weakness, they will automatically treat you as less important. The most successful people intuitively understand this process and have learned to trigger the right neurological responses. They know that respect isn't about what you say first. It's about what you communicate before you speak. They understand that the human brain is constantly looking for shortcuts to determine social ranking. And they've mastered the art of providing the exact signals that place them at the top of that hierarchy. This is why traditionally attractive qualities like kindness, intelligence, or work ethic don't automatically generate respect. These are valuable traits, but they don't trigger the immediate neurological responses that create instant authority. The brain status detection system is looking for much more primitive signals, dominance indicators, confidence markers, and social proof cues that suggest this person has successfully navigated hierarchical structures before. Research from Princeton University revealed that people make judgments about competence, trustworthiness, and leadership potential within 1/10th of a second of seeing a face. These snap judgments predict real-world outcomes, including election results, business success, and social influence with shocking accuracy. This means that most of your social and professional success is determined in moments that happen too fast for you to consciously control unless you understand the underlying mechanisms. The prefrontal cortex, the rational part of the brain, takes much longer to engage than the limbic system's immediate emotional responses. By the time someone is consciously evaluating your words or ideas, their brain has already decided whether you're worth taking seriously. This creates what psychologists call the halo effect, where initial impressions color all subsequent interactions. If you trigger respect immediately, everything you do afterward is interpreted more favorably. If you fail to command initial respect, you'll be fighting an uphill battle to change that first impression. The neurochemistry of respect involves several key systems. When someone perceives high status in another person, their brain releases decreased levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, while increasing production of dopamine, the reward chemical. This biochemical response makes them feel good around you, which reinforces their positive perception and desire to maintain a relationship. Conversely, when someone detects low status signals, their cortisol levels increase, creating a subtle stress response that makes them want to distance themselves or assert dominance over you. Understanding mirror neurons provides another crucial insight into instant respect. These specialized brain cells fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing that action. This means that your emotional state, confidence levels, and energy patterns are literally contagious. If you embody calm, confidence, and controlled power, the people around you will begin to mirror those states, making them more receptive to your influence. If you're anxious, uncertain, or seeking approval, others will mirror those states as well, leading them to question your competence. The key insight that separates the top 1% is this: respect is not earned through your actions over time. It's triggered through your presence in the moment. The most respected individuals have learned to consciously control the unconscious signals they send, essentially hacking the neurological processes that determine social hierarchy. They understand that every gesture, every facial expression, every vocal inflection is either building or destroying their authority in real time. This neurological reality explains why some people can walk into any situation and immediately become the center of attention while others struggle for recognition despite superior qualifications or achievements. It's not about fairness or logic. It's about understanding and working with the way human brains actually function rather than fighting against these ancient systems. Chapter 2: Energy Management and Presence Mastery. The foundation of instant respect lies not in what you do, but in the energy you bring into every space. Energy is the invisible force that people sense before you speak, before you move, even before they fully see you. It's the electromagnetic field of confidence, competence, and controlled power that radiates from individuals who understand their own value and refuse to diminish themselves for anyone. Most people leak energy in dozens of unconscious ways throughout the day. They seek approval through their tone of voice, communicate uncertainty through fidgeting and hesitant movements, and project neediness through excessive talking or over-explaining. This energy depletion creates what psychologists call the approval trap, where you unconsciously signal to others that you need their validation to feel complete. The moment someone senses that you need something from them, especially their approval or acceptance, you've automatically positioned yourself in a lower status position. The highest respected individuals operate from what energy practitioners call centered presence. This is a state where your emotional equilibrium is internally generated rather than dependent on external circumstances or other people's reactions. Centered presence communicates that you are complete within yourself, that you bring value rather than seeking it, and that your sense of self-worth is unshakable regardless of how others respond to you. Creating centered presence begins with understanding the difference between reactive and responsive energy. Reactive energy is characterized by immediate emotional responses to external stimuli. When someone challenges you, you feel compelled to defend yourself immediately. When someone doesn't respond as expected, you experience anxiety or frustration. When entering a new environment, you unconsciously scan for approval or acceptance signals. This reactive pattern broadcasts low status because it reveals that your emotional state is controlled by forces outside yourself. Responsive energy, by contrast, comes from a place of choice and intention. You receive information from your environment, process it internally, and then choose your response based on your values and objectives rather than emotional impulses. This creates a profound sense of stability and authority because others sense that you cannot be easily manipulated or thrown off balance. Your energy remains consistent regardless of external pressure, which signals high status and emotional maturity. The practice of energy management involves several specific techniques that must be mastered systematically. The first is breath, awareness, and control. Your breathing pattern directly affects your nervous system state, which in turn influences how others perceive your confidence and stability. Shallow chest-based breathing signals anxiety and low status, while deep diaphragmatic breathing communicates calm, confidence, and self-control. The technique involves establishing a breathing rhythm where your exhale is longer than your inhale, activating the parasympathetic nervous system, and creating a state of relaxed alertness. This isn't about obvious breathing exercises that others can observe, but rather about maintaining optimal oxygenation and nervous system regulation throughout all your interactions. When your breathing is controlled, your voice becomes more resonant, your movements more fluid, and your overall presence more commanding. Physical grounding is the second crucial component of energy mastery. This involves developing awareness of your connection to the earth through your feet and maintaining a stable base of support in all positions, whether standing, sitting, or moving. Grounded individuals project an unshakable quality that others find both attractive and respectful. They seem rooted in their own power rather than floating anxiously above it. The practice involves consciously feeling your feet on the ground, imagining roots extending deep into the earth and allowing your body weight to settle downward rather than holding tension in your shoulders, neck or face. This physical grounding translates into emotional and mental stability that others can sense immediately. Grounded people are harder to rattle, more difficult to manipulate, and naturally command more respect because they seem unmovable in their core identity. Energy boundaries represent the third essential element of presence mastery. Most people have poorly defined energy boundaries, meaning they unconsciously take on the emotions, moods, and energy states of others around them. This creates a chameleon-like quality where you adapt and adjust yourself based on who you're with, sending the message that you don't have a strong sense of self or clear values. Establishing clear energy boundaries means maintaining your core emotional state regardless of the energy that others bring to the interaction. If someone approaches you with anxiety, you don't automatically become anxious in response. If someone tries to provoke anger or frustration, you remain centered and choose your response consciously. This boundary maintenance requires developing what therapists call differentiation. The ability to be emotionally connected to others without being emotionally controlled by them. The practical application of energy boundaries involves visualizing an invisible field around yourself that allows positive energy to enter while filtering out negative or manipulative energy attempts. This isn't about becoming cold or disconnected, but rather about maintaining your sovereignty so that you can engage with others from a place of choice rather than reactive compulsion. Spatial awareness and positioning form the fourth component of energy mastery. The way you move through space, position yourself relative to others, and occupy physical environments sends continuous messages about your status and confidence levels. High-status individuals take up appropriate space without apology, move with purpose and intention, and position themselves strategically rather than just accepting whatever spot happens to be available. This involves understanding proxemics, the study of how space affects human behavior and perception. The distance you maintain from others, the angle at which you position yourself, and the height differential you create, all influence how others perceive your status and respond to your presence. Mastering spatial positioning allows you to create instant respect by unconsciously communicating that you understand and claim your rightful place in any hierarchy. Chapter 3. Strategic Communication Techniques. The words you choose and how you deliver them create the auditory landscape of respect. Most people use language that systematically undermines their authority without realizing it. They hedge their statements with unnecessary qualifiers, seek permission for their opinions, and communicate uncertainty through vocal patterns that broadcast low status to everyone listening. Strategic communication begins with understanding the difference between approval-seeking language and authority-based language. Approval-seeking language includes phrases like "I think, maybe, if that's okay with you, I'm sorry, but and does that make sense?" These linguistic patterns send the message that you're uncertain about your own ideas and need external validation to feel confident in your positions. Authority-based language, by contrast, states positions clearly and directly without unnecessary cushioning or qualification. Instead of saying, "I think we might want to consider possibly doing this differently," authority language states, "We should change this approach." The difference isn't about being rude or dismissive. It's about communicating with the confidence that your thoughts and opinions have value and don't require permission or approval from others. Vocal tonality carries even more weight than word choice in creating respect. The human voice contains multiple layers of information that listeners process unconsciously to determine your status, confidence, and emotional state. Rising intonation at the end of statements, known as uptalk, makes declarative sentences sound like questions and broadcasts. Uncertainty and insecurity. Speaking too quickly suggests anxiety or a need to rush through your ideas before someone interrupts or dismisses you. The most respected communicators master what vocal coaches call the authority tone. This involves speaking from the lower registers of your voice, maintaining steady volume and pacing, and ending statements with downward inflection that signals confidence and completion. The authority tone suggests that you've thought carefully about what you're saying and that you stand behind your words with conviction. Developing vocal authority requires understanding the mechanics of voice production. Your voice originates not just from your throat, but from your entire respiratory system. Shallow breathing creates a thin, high voice that signals nervousness and low status. Deep diaphragmatic breathing produces a fuller, more resonant voice that naturally commands attention and respect. The practice involves speaking from your core rather than your throat, allowing your voice to be supported by your breath rather than forced through tension. This creates what singers call resonance, where your voice has depth, richness, and natural authority that makes people want to listen. When you speak with true vocal authority, people automatically lean in and pay attention because your voice itself communicates that what you're saying is important. Strategic pausing represents one of the most underutilized tools in authoritative communication. Most people fear silence and rush to fill any gap in conversation, often with meaningless filler words or unnecessary explanations that dilute their message. High-status communicators understand that strategic silence creates tension that draws attention and makes their words carry more weight. The technique involves deliberate pauses before important points to create anticipation. Pauses after important statements to let them sink in comfortable silence that allows others to process and respond thoughtfully. These pauses communicate that you're not desperate to be heard, that you're confident your words have value, and that you're willing to let ideas stand on their own merit rather than overselling them. Strategic pausing also includes the discipline of not immediately filling silence that others create. When someone asks you a question, taking a moment to consider your response rather than answering immediately shows that you think before you speak and that you respect the importance of giving thoughtful answers. This pause signals that your opinions are considered and deliberate rather than reactive. Language precision forms another critical component of strategic communication. Vague language creates vague impressions, while precise language demonstrates clear thinking and attention to detail. Instead of saying something was pretty good, specific language states exactly what was effective and why. Instead of saying you kind of think something, precise language either commits to a position or acknowledges uncertainty without undermining your overall competence. This precision extends to storytelling and example usage. High-status communicators don't just make claims. They support their points with specific, relevant examples that demonstrate their experience and credibility. They use concrete details that make their stories memorable and their expertise tangible. They avoid abstract generalities that allow listeners to question their actual knowledge or experience. The strategic use of questions represents an advanced communication technique that separates expert influencers from amateur persuaders. Most people use questions to seek information or approval. Strategic questions guide thinking, create engagement, and lead others to conclusions rather than forcing those conclusions upon them. Instead of arguing for a position, strategic questioning helps others discover that position for themselves, making them feel ownership of the idea. Effective strategic questions include: what would happen if we approached this differently? What criteria are most important for making this decision? How do you see this connecting to our larger objectives? These questions demonstrate thoughtfulness while guiding the conversation toward your preferred outcomes without seeming manipulative or controlling. Question timing is equally important as question content. Strategic questions asked at the beginning of discussions establish your role as someone who thinks systematically and considers multiple perspectives. Questions asked during disagreements can diffuse tension by shifting focus from positions to underlying interests. Questions asked at the end of conversations ensure that everyone leaves with clarity about next steps and expectations. The principle of conversational leadership involves guiding discussions without dominating them. This means taking responsibility for the quality and direction of conversations while still allowing others to participate meaningfully. Conversational leaders introduce topics that matter. Ask questions that generate valuable insights and steer discussions away from unproductive tangents without being controlling. This leadership role is established through your communication choices. Bringing up important issues that others might avoid, asking the clarifying questions that others don't think to ask, and summarizing key points to ensure understanding and agreement. These behaviors position you as someone who adds value to every interaction and who can be trusted to facilitate productive communication. Chapter 4: Power Positioning and Body Language Mastery. Your body language communicates your status, confidence, and inner state more powerfully than any words you could speak. Within milliseconds of seeing you, people's brains are processing hundreds of micro-signals from your posture, gestures, facial expressions, and facial positioning to determine whether you're someone who deserves respect or someone who should be dismissed. The foundation of power positioning lies in understanding the concept of physical sovereignty. This is the ability to occupy space confidently and appropriately without apology or excessive adjustment to accommodate others. Most people unconsciously shrink themselves in social situations, crossing their arms, hunching their shoulders, or positioning themselves in ways that minimize their physical presence. This physical diminishment directly translates to social diminishment. Physical sovereignty begins with spinal alignment and core stability. Your spine is literally your backbone, and how you hold it sends immediate messages about your inner strength and self-respect. A straight, elongated spine communicates confidence, alertness, and dignity, while a collapsed or hunched posture suggests insecurity, fatigue, or defeat. This isn't about military rigidity, but rather about finding your natural height and maintaining it with relaxed strength. The practice involves imagining a string attached to the crown of your head, gently pulling you upward while allowing your shoulders to drop and your rib cage to expand. Your pelvis should be in neutral position, neither tilted forward nor tucked under. This alignment creates what movement specialists call integrated strength, where your entire body supports itself efficiently without requiring excessive muscular effort or creating visible tension. Shoulder positioning represents one of the most critical elements of power body language. Rounded forward shoulders communicate submissiveness, insecurity, and a desire to make oneself smaller and less threatening. Pulled back. Open shoulders communicate confidence, openness, and a willingness to take up appropriate space. The key is finding the middle ground between collapsed shoulders and artificially forced back shoulders that create tension and appear unnatural. The technique involves rolling your shoulders up, back, and down in a smooth motion. Then allowing them to rest in their natural position. Your shoulder blades should settle toward your back ribs, creating width across your chest and upper back. This positioning opens your heart center and communicates that you're approachable yet confident, vulnerable yet strong. Facial expression mastery requires understanding the delicate balance between warmth and authority. A completely blank expression can appear cold or intimidating, while an overly animated expression can seem inauthentic or approval-seeking. The most respected individuals maintain what psychologists call relaxed alertness in their facial expressions, communicating that they're present and engaged without being desperate for connection. The foundation of powerful facial expression is jaw relaxation and eye steadiness. Jaw tension creates a hard, unapproachable appearance and often leads to forced smiles that don't reach the eyes. A relaxed jaw allows for natural, genuine facial expressions that appear confident rather than controlled. Eye contact should be steady and direct without being aggressive or invasive, communicating that you're comfortable being seen and that you see others clearly. Micro-expressions, the brief facial expressions that flash across people's faces before they can control them, reveal true emotional states and levels of authenticity. Developing awareness of your own micro-expressions ensures that your face supports rather than contradicts your intended message. This involves practicing emotional regulation so that your internal state aligns with your external presentation. Gestural power involves using hand and arm movements that support your authority rather than undermining it. Nervous gesticulation, repetitive, self-touching, and fidgeting behaviors all signal anxiety and low confidence. Powerful gestures are deliberate, purposeful, and used to emphasize important points rather than filling empty space or managing nervous energy. Effective gestures originate from your core rather than just your hands, creating movements that appear integrated and natural rather than disconnected from your body. They should be large enough to be clearly seen but not so large that they become distracting. The timing of gestures should align with your words so that your physical and verbal communication supports the same message. The strategic use of space known as proxemics allows you to influence interactions through positioning and distance. High-status individuals understand how to use space to create the appropriate level of intimacy or authority for each situation. They don't automatically accept whatever spatial arrangement they find. Instead, they position themselves strategically to optimize their influence and comfort. This involves understanding the different zones of interpersonal space. Intimate distance for close personal relationships, personal distance for friendly conversations, social distance for professional interactions, and public distance for formal presentations. Mastering these distances means knowing when to step closer to create connection or when to maintain distance to preserve authority. Spatial positioning also includes understanding height dynamics and angular positioning. When possible, position yourself so that you're at the same eye level or slightly higher than others in the conversation. If you must sit while others stand or if there's a significant height difference, adjust your positioning to minimize the status differential. Angle your body to show engagement while maintaining your own space and dignity. Movement quality separates confident individuals from anxious ones more than any specific posture or position. Jerky, rushed or hesitant movements signal internal chaos and uncertainty. Smooth, deliberate movements communicate self-control and intentionality. This doesn't mean moving slowly in all situations, but rather moving with purpose and completing each motion fully before beginning the next. The practice involves developing what martial artists call centered movement, where your actions originate from your core and flow outward through your extremities. This creates a sense of integrated power where your entire body supports each movement rather than specific body parts working in isolation. Centered movement appears effortless even when you're moving quickly or powerfully. Understanding cultural variations in body language ensures that your nonverbal communication is appropriate for your environment. Different cultures have varying expectations for eye contact, spatial distance, gesture usage, and posture formality. However, the underlying principles of confidence, respect, and authenticity translate across most cultural contexts when applied with sensitivity and awareness. The key is maintaining your authentic power while adapting your expression to meet cultural expectations. This isn't about changing your fundamental presence, but rather about demonstrating cultural intelligence while preserving your core confidence and authority. This balance shows respect for others while maintaining respect for yourself. Chapter 5. Emotional Regulation Under Pressure. The ultimate test of respect comes not when everything is going smoothly, but when you're under pressure, facing criticism, or dealing with difficult people who are trying to throw you off balance. How you handle these challenging moments determines whether people see you as someone with authentic strength or someone whose confidence crumbles when tested. Emotional regulation under pressure begins with understanding the physiological reality of stress responses. When someone challenges your authority, criticizes your ideas, or attempts to provoke you, your body automatically activates what neuroscientists call the threat response system. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes shallow, stress hormones flood your system, and your brain shifts into survival mode rather than strategic thinking mode. Most people become reactive in these moments, defending themselves immediately, getting argumentative, or shutting down emotionally. These reactions broadcast to everyone watching that you can be easily destabilized and that your confidence is fragile when tested. The individuals who command the most respect are those who remain centered and strategic even when under attack. The foundation of pressure regulation is developing what psychologists call distress tolerance. The ability to experience uncomfortable emotions without immediately needing to escape, avoid, or react to them. This isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending you don't feel them. It's about creating enough space between the stimulus and your response that you can choose your reaction consciously rather than being controlled by your immediate impulses. Distress tolerance begins with recognizing the early warning signs of emotional activation before you reach the point of reactivity. These signs include changes in breathing pattern, muscle tension, vocal tone, or thought speed. Learning to notice these early indicators gives you the opportunity to intervene before your stress response takes over completely and compromises your ability to respond strategically. The technique of tactical breathing provides the most immediate tool for maintaining composure under pressure. When your breathing becomes shallow and rapid during stress, it reinforces your body's alarm state and makes it harder to think clearly or respond thoughtfully. Conscious breath control interrupts this cycle and activates your parasympathetic nervous system, restoring your ability to think strategically rather than reactively. The specific technique involves breathing in through your nose for a count of 4, holding for a count of 4, and exhaling through your mouth for a count of 6. This pattern should be subtle and natural looking rather than obvious to others. The longer exhale specifically activates the calming branch of your nervous system and helps restore your emotional equilibrium without anyone else noticing that you're using a regulation technique. Mental reframing represents the cognitive component of pressure management. When someone challenges or criticizes you, your initial interpretation of that interaction determines your emotional response. If you interpret the challenge as a threat to your worth or competence, you'll feel defensive and reactive. If you reframe the same challenge as useful feedback or an opportunity to demonstrate grace under pressure, you'll respond very differently. The most effective reframe for maintaining respect under pressure is viewing difficult interactions as tests of your character and leadership capacity. Instead of thinking this person is attacking me, you think this is an opportunity to show how I handled disagreement professionally. Instead of they're trying to make me look bad, you think I can demonstrate my emotional maturity right now. This reframing isn't about positive thinking or denial. It's about choosing interpretations that empower strategic responses rather than reactive ones. The same situation can be viewed as a threat to defend against or an opportunity to demonstrate your capabilities. Your choice of interpretation directly influences your emotional state and behavioral options. The practice of strategic non-reactivity involves consciously choosing not to respond immediately to provocation or criticism. This doesn't mean being passive or failing to address important issues. It means responding from a place of choice rather than compulsion. Strategic non-reactivity creates several powerful effects. It prevents you from saying something you might regret. It often diffuses the other person's emotional charge, and it demonstrates that you're not easily controlled by external pressure. The technique involves acknowledging what someone has said without immediately agreeing or disagreeing. Buying yourself time to consider your response carefully. Phrases like, "That's interesting," "I can see why you might feel that way," or "Let me think about that," allow you to stay engaged in the conversation without committing to a reactive response. This acknowledgement period gives your nervous system time to settle while showing the other person that you're taking their input seriously rather than dismissing it defensively. Often this pause alone changes the entire dynamic of the interaction, moving it from confrontational to collaborative. Boundary maintenance under pressure requires the ability to address inappropriate behavior or unreasonable demands without becoming emotional or aggressive. Many people either become doormats when pressured or they escalate into conflict, both of which damage their respect and relationships. The most effective approach is calm, clear boundary setting that addresses the behavior without attacking the person. This involves stating your limits directly and factually. "I'm not comfortable with that approach. That doesn't work for me," or "I need to handle this differently." These statements communicate your boundaries without justifying them extensively or becoming defensive about your position. You're simply stating a fact about your requirements rather than asking permission or seeking approval when boundaries are tested or ignored. Escalating your response gradually and professionally maintains your authority while giving the other person opportunities to adjust their behavior. This might progress from a gentle reminder to a firm statement to involving appropriate authorities, but each step remains professional and focused on the behavior rather than personal attacks. The mastery of emotional contagion protection allows you to maintain your centered state even when others around you are highly emotional or chaotic. Emotional contagion is the psychological phenomenon where we unconsciously mirror the emotional states of people around us. In high-stress environments, this can mean absorbing anxiety, anger, or panic from others, which compromises your ability to think clearly and respond effectively. Protection involves visualizing an energetic boundary around yourself that allows you to perceive others' emotions without automatically taking them on. You can empathize with someone's frustration without becoming frustrated yourself. You can understand someone's anxiety without becoming anxious. This emotional differentiation allows you to be supportive and responsive while maintaining your own equilibrium and decision-making capacity. Chapter 6: Advanced Influence and Persuasion Techniques. The highest level of respect comes not just from how you present yourself, but from your ability to guide outcomes and influence decisions without appearing manipulative or controlling. Advanced influence operates on psychological principles that most people never learn, allowing you to shape conversations, change minds, and create cooperation while maintaining your integrity and others' respect. The foundation of ethical influence lies in understanding the difference between persuasion and manipulation. Manipulation seeks to benefit yourself at others' expense, often through deception or emotional exploitation. Ethical influence seeks outcomes that benefit everyone involved, using psychological principles to help others see perspectives and possibilities they might otherwise miss. This distinction is crucial because people can sense when you're trying to take advantage of them, which destroys rather than builds respect. The principle of reciprocity represents one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. When someone does something beneficial for you, you feel psychologically obligated to return the favor. This isn't manipulation when used ethically. It's simply understanding how human relationships naturally function. The key is providing genuine value before asking for anything in return. Creating a psychological environment where others want to help you succeed. Advanced practitioners of reciprocity don't just give generic favors. They provide specifically valuable assistance that addresses real needs or problems. This might involve sharing useful information, making strategic introductions, or offering expertise that saves time or prevents mistakes. The more valuable and personalized your contribution, the stronger the reciprocal obligation and the more respect you generate for your generosity and competence. The timing of reciprocity requests is equally important as the value provided. Immediately asking for something after providing help can feel transactional and manipulative. The most effective approach involves providing value consistently over time, building a reservoir of goodwill and then making requests that feel natural and reasonable. Given the relationship foundation you've established, social proof leverages the human tendency to look to others for guidance about appropriate behavior and correct decisions. When people see that others they respect or identify with have chosen to trust, follow, or work with you, they're much more likely to do the same. This principle explains why testimonials, endorsements, and visible success create momentum that attracts even more success. Creating social proof requires strategic relationship building with influential people in your field or social circle. This isn't about using people for their status, but rather about building genuine relationships that naturally result in public support for your ideas and initiatives. When respected individuals speak positively about you or your work, it provides third-party validation that carries far more weight than anything you could say about yourself. The most sophisticated use of social proof involves what psychologists call similar other proof, where the endorsement comes from people who are similar to your target audience. If you're trying to influence executives, testimonials from other executives carry more weight than endorsements from academics or artists. If you're working with technical professionals, evidence that other technical professionals value your expertise will be most persuasive. Authority positioning involves establishing your credibility and expertise in ways that feel natural and informative rather than boastful or self-promotional. People naturally defer to legitimate authority, but they resist authority that feels forced or artificial. The key is demonstrating your knowledge through your questions, insights, and problem-solving approaches rather than through explicit claims about your qualifications. This demonstration happens through several channels. Your questions reveal the depth of your thinking and experience. Someone who asks superficial questions appears to have superficial knowledge, while someone who asks sophisticated multi-layered questions demonstrates deep understanding. Your insights should connect ideas or patterns that others haven't noticed, showing that you see things from a broader or deeper perspective. Your problem-solving approach should be systematic and thorough, addressing not just immediate issues, but also underlying causes and potential future complications. This comprehensive thinking demonstrates the kind of expertise that people respect and want to access. Authority emerges naturally when others realize that your perspective adds value they can't get elsewhere. The scarcity principle operates on the psychological reality that people value things more when they believe those things are rare, limited, or difficult to obtain. This isn't about creating artificial scarcity through manipulative tactics, but rather about helping others understand the genuine limitations on your time, attention, or availability. When you're selective about your commitments and clear about your boundaries, people value your engagement more highly. Implementing healthy scarcity involves being honest about your capacity limits and maintaining high standards for how you spend your time and energy. This might mean declining requests that don't align with your priorities, setting specific times for different types of interactions, or being clear about what you can and cannot commit to accomplishing. The respect-building aspect of scarcity comes from demonstrating that you value yourself and your contributions enough to be selective about how you share them. This selectivity signals high self-worth and competence, making others more interested in gaining access to your time and expertise. People want what they can't easily have, and respecting your own boundaries teaches others to respect them as well. Consistency and commitment leverage the human desire to appear reliable and trustworthy to ourselves and others. When someone makes a commitment, especially a public one, they feel psychological pressure to follow through in order to maintain their self-image and reputation. Understanding this principle allows you to create buy-in and cooperation by helping others make commitments that align with your objectives. The key is structuring interactions so that others arrive at decisions themselves rather than feeling pressured into agreement. This involves asking questions that lead people to consider the logical consequences of different choices, helping them see how specific actions align with their stated values or goals, and creating opportunities for them to verbalize their commitments in their own words. When people feel ownership of a decision because they participated in reaching it, they're much more likely to follow through with enthusiasm rather than reluctant compliance. This collaborative approach builds respect because it demonstrates that you value others' thinking and autonomy while still guiding toward productive outcomes. The principle of liking recognizes that people are more easily influenced by individuals they like, trust, and feel connected to. However, this principle is often misunderstood as requiring you to be universally agreeable or to mirror others' preferences. Authentic liking is built through genuine interest in others, finding real common ground and demonstrating that you see and appreciate their unique qualities and contributions. Building genuine connection involves active listening that goes beyond waiting for your turn to speak. You're listening for underlying values, motivations, and concerns that you can address or support. You're looking for authentic similarities in background, interests, or perspectives that create natural rapport. You're noticing and acknowledging others' strengths and contributions in ways that feel sincere rather than flattering. This authentic approach to relationship building creates lasting influence because it's based on real mutual respect and understanding rather than surface-level charm or manipulation. People can sense the difference between genuine interest and calculated friendliness, and they respond with much deeper trust and cooperation when they feel truly seen and valued. Chapter 7. Reading and adapting to different personality types. The ability to quickly assess someone's personality style, communication preferences, and decision-making patterns allows you to tailor your approach for maximum impact and respect. Most people use the same communication style with everyone, which means they connect well with people who are similar to them, but struggle to influence those who think and process information differently. Understanding personality differences isn't about manipulating people by pretending to be someone you're not. It's about communicating in ways that allow others to hear your message clearly and respond positively. Just as you might speak more slowly and clearly with someone who's learning your language, you can adjust your communication style to match others' preferred ways of receiving and processing information. The driver personality type is characterized by direct communication, quick decision and results-oriented thinking. Drivers want to know what you want, why it matters, and how quickly it can be accomplished. They respect competence, efficiency, and people who don't waste their time with unnecessary details or emotional processing. When communicating with drivers, lead with your main point. Provide clear timelines and measurable outcomes, and be prepared to move quickly from discussion to action. Drivers respond well to confidence and directness, but can be put off by what they perceive as indecisiveness or emotional manipulation. They appreciate people who can match their energy level and pace without trying to slow them down or complicate simple decisions. Building respect with drivers means demonstrating that you can keep up with their thinking speed and that you share their focus on results and efficiency. The key to influencing drivers is presenting information in terms of competitive advantage, time savings, or measurable improvements. They want to know how your proposal will help them win, achieve their goals faster, or outperform their competition. Emotional appeals and lengthy relationship-building conversations often frustrate drivers. They prefer to build trust through competent performance rather than extensive discussion. The analytical personality type values accuracy, thoroughness, and logical decision-making processes. Analyticals want comprehensive information before making decisions, and they respect people who have done their homework and can provide detailed factual support for their recommendations. They're skeptical of emotional appeals or pressure tactics and prefer to evaluate options systematically. When working with analyticals, come prepared with data, research, and logical reasoning that supports your position. Be ready to answer detailed questions and provide additional information when requested. Don't rush their decision-making process. Instead, respect their need to thoroughly evaluate options and consider potential risks or complications. Building respect with analyticals involves demonstrating your expertise through the quality of your preparation and the depth of your knowledge. They appreciate people who think systematically, anticipate problems, and provide well-reasoned solutions. Your credibility with analyticals is built through accuracy, consistency, and the ability to back up your claims with solid evidence. Analyticals respond well to structured presentations that outline problems clearly, present multiple solution options, provide comparative analysis, and acknowledge potential drawbacks or limitations. They want to feel confident that they've made the best possible decision based on complete information, and they respect people who help them achieve this thoroughness. The expressive personality type is enthusiastic, social, and motivated by recognition and relationship building. Expressives enjoy collaborative processes, creative thinking, and having fun while accomplishing goals. They respect people who are engaging, optimistic, and who acknowledge their contributions publicly. They can be put off by overly serious or impersonal approaches that don't allow for relationship building and social interaction. When communicating with expressives, allow time for relationship building and social conversation before diving into business topics. Show enthusiasm for their ideas and contributions and look for ways to make the interaction enjoyable and engaging. They appreciate people who can match their energy and who seem genuinely interested in them as individuals rather than just focusing on tasks or outcomes. Building respect with expressives involves recognizing their need for social connection and public acknowledgement. They want to feel valued not just for their work output but for their personality and relationship-building contributions. Providing opportunities for them to shine socially and acknowledging their achievements publicly will create strong loyalty and cooperation. Expressives respond well to brainstorming sessions, collaborative planning processes, and approaches that allow for creativity and flexibility. They're motivated by vision and possibility rather than detailed analysis or rigid procedures. When presenting ideas to expressives, focus on the exciting potential outcomes and how the proposal aligns with their values and aspirations. The amiable personality type values harmony, stability, and collaborative relationships. Amiables prefer gradual change to sudden shifts, and they want to ensure that decisions won't hurt anyone or create unnecessary conflict. They respect people who are patient, considerate, and who take time to understand all perspectives before moving forward. They can be resistant to high-pressure approaches or decisions that might negatively impact team relationships. When working with amiables, emphasize how your proposals will benefit everyone involved and how you plan to implement changes gradually and thoughtfully. Be prepared to address their concerns about potential negative impacts and to provide reassurance about your commitment to maintaining positive relationships throughout any transition process. Building respect with amiables involves demonstrating genuine care for people and relationships, not just results. They want to work with people they trust and like, and they need to feel confident that you won't sacrifice relationships for short-term gains. Taking time to understand their perspectives and concerns shows that you value their input and their comfort with proposed changes. Amiables respond well to consensus-building approaches that allow everyone to have input and feel heard. They appreciate step-by-step implementation plans that provide security and predictability. When presenting to amiables, focus on how your proposal supports team harmony and long-term stability rather than emphasizing competitive advantage or dramatic change. The key to successfully adapting to different personality types is developing flexibility in your communication style while maintaining authenticity in your core message and values. This isn't about becoming a different person for each interaction. It's about translating your authentic self into communication patterns that others can best receive and understand. This adaptation requires developing what psychologists call social intelligence, the ability to read social situations accurately and respond appropriately. This includes noticing verbal and non-verbal cues that indicate someone's preferred communication style, energy level, and decision-making approach. The more quickly you can assess these preferences, the more effectively you can tailor your communication for maximum impact. Practice involves observing how different people respond to various communication approaches and adjusting your style based on their feedback and engagement levels. Over time, you'll develop intuitive skills for recognizing personality patterns and knowing how to adapt your approach for optimal influence and respect with each individual you encounter. Chapter 8. Building long-term authority and reputation. Instant respect gets you in the door, but sustained respect requires building a reputation that precedes you into every room and interaction. Long-term authority is created through consistent patterns of behavior that demonstrate your values, competence, and reliability over time. This reputation becomes your most valuable asset, opening opportunities and creating influence that extends far beyond individual interactions. The foundation of lasting authority lies in what psychologists call behavioral consistency. People respect individuals who act in accordance with their stated values even when it's difficult or costly to do so. This consistency allows others to predict how you'll behave in future situations, which creates trust and confidence in your character and judgment. Behavioral consistency doesn't mean being inflexible or never changing your mind. It means having a clear set of core principles that guide your decisions and being transparent about those principles with others. When you face difficult choices, people watch to see whether you'll compromise your values for convenience, profit, or social pressure. How you handle these moments defines your reputation more than any individual achievement or failure. The principle of intellectual honesty forms a crucial component of long-term respect. This involves acknowledging when you don't know something, admitting when you've made mistakes, and changing your position when presented with better information or reasoning. Many people fear that admitting limitations will damage their credibility. But the opposite is true. People respect individuals who are secure enough in themselves to be honest about their knowledge and fallibility. Intellectual honesty also means giving credit where it's due, acknowledging others' contributions to your successes and taking responsibility for your failures without making excuses or blaming external factors. This humility combined with competence creates a powerful reputation for integrity that makes people want to work with you and trust your judgment. When you make mistakes, how you handle them becomes a defining moment for your reputation. Taking immediate responsibility, working to correct any damage, and implementing changes to prevent similar future mistakes demonstrates the kind of character that people respect and trust with greater responsibilities. People who try to hide, minimize, or blame others for their mistakes damage their long-term credibility even if they escape immediate consequences. Strategic value creation involves consistently providing insights, solutions, or assistance that others cannot easily get elsewhere. This means developing expertise that's genuinely valuable and sharing that expertise generously with others. The key is becoming someone who makes others more successful, more informed, or more capable through your contributions to their projects and goals. This value creation should be sustainable and authentic rather than performative or temporary. You're not trying to impress people with occasional grand gestures. You're building a reputation for reliable excellence and helpfulness. This consistency means that people begin to associate your involvement with improved outcomes, which makes them seek your participation and value your opinions. The most effective value creation comes from understanding what others truly need rather than what you think they should want. This requires developing empathy and market awareness that allows you to identify genuine problems and provide solutions that address root causes rather than just surface symptoms. When people consistently benefit from interacting with you, your reputation spreads naturally through their recommendations and referrals. Network cultivation represents the strategic dimension of reputation building. The people you associate with and the relationships you maintain become part of your brand and influence how others perceive your status and capabilities. This isn't about social climbing or using people for their connections. It's about building genuine relationships with individuals who share your values and who challenge you to grow professionally and personally. Effective network cultivation involves being genuinely interested in others' success and finding ways to support their goals and projects. This reciprocal approach to relationship building creates strong bonds that survive career changes, geographic moves, and shifting industry dynamics. People who have benefited from your support become advocates for your reputation and sources of opportunities throughout your career. The quality of your network matters more than the quantity. Having deep trusted relationships with a smaller group of influential people is far more valuable than superficial connections with large numbers of acquaintances. Focus on building relationships where you can provide real value and where others can genuinely support your growth and opportunities. Digital reputation management has become increasingly important as online presence influences professional and personal opportunities. Your digital footprint should reinforce rather than contradict your offline reputation. This means being thoughtful about what you share publicly, how you engage in online discussions, and what impressions someone would form about you based solely on your digital presence. The principle of digital consistency applies the same standards to online behavior as offline behavior. If you're known for thoughtful, respectful communication in person, your online communications should demonstrate the same qualities. If you're respected for your expertise in specific areas, your online content should showcase that expertise in valuable, generous ways. Digital reputation also involves managing what others say about you online. This means providing excellent service or work that generates positive reviews and testimonials, responding professionally to any criticism or negative feedback, and building relationships that result in public support when needed. Your digital reputation should tell the same story as your personal reputation, creating a consistent brand that builds trust and respect. Thought leadership development allows you to shape conversations in your field and establish yourself as someone whose opinions and insights matter. This involves identifying trends, problems, or opportunities that others haven't fully recognized and articulating perspectives that help people understand complex situations more clearly. Effective thought leadership isn't about having opinions on everything. It's about developing deep expertise in specific areas and sharing insights that genuinely help others make better decisions or understand important developments. This means choosing your focus areas carefully and investing the time and research necessary to develop truly valuable perspectives. The communication of thought leadership should be accessible and practical rather than academic or theoretical. People respect thought leaders who can translate complex ideas into actionable insights that improve real-world outcomes. Your reputation grows when people regularly find value in your perspectives and begin to seek your input on important decisions. Legacy thinking involves making decisions based not just on immediate outcomes, but on the long-term impact those decisions will have on your reputation and relationships. This means choosing actions that you'll be proud of years later, and that will contribute to the kind of reputation you want to have throughout your career. Legacy thinking also involves mentoring others and contributing to causes or projects that extend beyond your immediate self-interest. People respect individuals who invest in others' growth and who work toward goals that benefit their communities or professions. This long-term perspective creates a reputation for wisdom and leadership that attracts opportunities and respect throughout your career. The key to building lasting authority is understanding that reputation is built through thousands of small interactions and decisions rather than a few dramatic moments. Every conversation, every project, every response to challenge or opportunity contributes to the overall impression others have of your character and capabilities. Consistency in these small moments creates the foundation for long-term respect and influence. Chapter 9. Handling specific challenging situations. Real respect is proven not in comfortable situations, but when you're faced with difficult people, unexpected challenges, or high-stakes confrontations. How you handle these moments defines your reputation and determines whether people see you as someone with authentic strength, or someone whose confidence is only surface deep. The first category of challenging situations involves dealing with aggressive or hostile individuals who are trying to intimidate, embarrass, or undermine you publicly. These people often use volume, personal attacks, or emotional manipulation to throw you off balance and make you react defensively. The natural human response is either to fight back with equal aggression or to retreat and try to avoid conflict. But neither approach maintains your respect or resolves the underlying issue. The most effective strategy for handling aggressive behavior is what conflict resolution specialists call calm containment. This involves maintaining your emotional equilibrium while setting clear boundaries about acceptable behavior. You acknowledge that the person has concerns or frustrations without accepting their right to express those feelings through disrespectful or aggressive means. The technique begins with lowering your voice and slowing your speech rate, which creates a calming effect and prevents escalation. You address the behavior directly but without personal attacks. "I can see you're frustrated, but I need you to lower your voice so we can address this productively." This statement acknowledges their emotion while establishing your boundary about how the conversation will proceed. If the aggressive behavior continues, you escalate your boundary setting gradually. "I want to resolve this, but I won't continue the conversation if you keep raising your voice." This gives the person a choice about how to proceed while making it clear that you won't tolerate continued disrespect. The key is remaining calm and factual rather than emotional or defensive, which demonstrates that you cannot be controlled by their aggressive tactics. The second challenging situation involves dealing with passive-aggressive behavior, where someone expresses hostility or resistance through indirect means like sarcasm, silent treatment, subtle sabotage, or compliance without genuine cooperation. Passive-aggressive behavior is often more difficult to address than direct aggression because it's harder to identify specific actions that cross clear boundaries. The most effective approach to passive-aggressive behavior is what psychologists call constructive confrontation. This involves naming the behavior pattern directly while giving the person an opportunity to address whatever underlying issues are driving their indirect resistance. You focus on observable behaviors rather than assumed motivations or intentions. For example, "I've noticed that you've missed the last 3 deadlines we discussed. And when I ask about progress, you say everything is fine. I'm concerned that there might be obstacles I'm not aware of that are preventing you from meeting these commitments. Can we talk about what's really happening?" This approach addresses the pattern without attacking the person's character while opening the door for honest communication about underlying problems. If passive-aggressive behavior continues after direct conversation, you move to consequences-based boundaries. You focus on the impact of their behavior rather than trying to change their attitude. "Since the current approach isn't working, I need to adjust the timeline and backup plans to ensure we meet our overall objectives." This removes the drama from the situation while protecting your goals and projects from continued sabotage. The third challenging situation involves being unfairly criticized or blamed for problems you didn't cause, especially in public settings where your response is being observed by others. The immediate impulse is often to defend yourself vigorously and prove your innocence. But this defensive reaction can actually damage your credibility by making you appear reactive and insecure. The most respected response to unfair criticism is what leadership experts call graceful accountability. This involves taking responsibility for any part of the problem that you actually contributed to while calmly correcting factual inaccuracies without becoming defensive or attacking your critic. The response formula begins with acknowledging any legitimate concerns. "You're right that the project didn't meet our timeline expectations." Then you clarify your actual role without making excuses. "My piece was the market research which I delivered on schedule. The delays came from factors outside my control." Finally, you focus on solutions rather than blame. "What matters now is how we get back on track. Here's what I recommend we do moving forward." This approach demonstrates integrity by acknowledging real problems while protecting your reputation by clarifying facts. It also shows leadership by moving the conversation toward productive solutions rather than getting stuck in blame and defensiveness. The fourth challenging situation involves being excluded from important meetings, decisions, or communications where your input should have been included. This exclusion can be intentional power play designed to marginalize your influence, or it can be thoughtless oversight. Either way, addressing it effectively is crucial for maintaining your position and respect. The key to handling exclusion is what political strategists call strategic reassertion. This involves calmly but firmly re-establishing your appropriate role without appearing desperate or defensive. You focus on the business or organizational impact of your exclusion rather than personal feelings of hurt or frustration. The approach begins with gathering information. I noticed that the budget meeting happened yesterday, but I didn't receive an invitation. Since I'm responsible for the implementation costs, I want to make sure I understand the decisions that were made. This statement is factual and professional while implying that your exclusion may have created problems that need to be addressed. If the exclusion appears to be intentional, you address it more directly. I want to make sure there's no confusion about my role in this project. Based on my understanding, I should be involved in decisions about X and Y. If that's changed, I need to know so I can adjust my planning accordingly. This approach forces clarification of your role while avoiding accusations or emotional reactions. The fifth challenging situation involves being asked to compromise your values or integrity to achieve business or social goals. This might involve lying to clients or stakeholders, taking credit for others' work, or participating in decisions that you believe are unethical or harmful. The most respected approach to integrity challenges is what ethicists call principled refusal. This involves clearly stating your position without being self-righteous or judgmental about others who might make different choices. You focus on your own standards and boundaries rather than trying to impose them on others. The response should be clear and direct. I'm not comfortable with that approach because it conflicts with my professional standards. I'd like to explore alternative ways to achieve our goals that don't require misrepresenting the situation. This statement maintains your integrity while showing that you're still committed to finding solutions and achieving objectives. If pressure continues, you may need to escalate your response. I understand this might be the common practice, but it's not something I can participate in. I'm happy to work on alternative approaches, but I won't be able to be involved if this is the direction we're going. This boundary setting protects your integrity while giving others the information they need to make decisions about how to proceed. The sixth challenging situation involves being micromanaged or having your judgment questioned constantly by supervisors or clients who don't trust your expertise or decision-making ability. This undermines your authority and makes it difficult to perform effectively while maintaining your professional reputation. The most effective response to micromanagement is what management consultants call competence demonstration through communication. This involves proactively providing information and updates that address the underlying concerns driving the micromanagement while gradually establishing trust through consistent performance. You begin by understanding what information the micromanager needs to feel confident in your work. Then you provide that information proactively rather than waiting to be asked. You might send regular progress updates, share your decision-making process for important choices, or invite input on key milestones. This approach addresses their need for control while gradually proving that you can be trusted with greater autonomy. As trust builds, you can gradually request more independence. Since the last 3 projects have been delivered on time and on budget, I'd like to try managing the next one with weekly check-ins instead of daily ones. I'll keep you informed if any issues arise that require immediate attention. This approach shows that you understand their concerns while building toward the working relationship you need to be effective. Chapter 10. Creating Systems for Consistent Respect. The difference between people who occasionally command respect and those who consistently operate from a position of authority lies in their systems and habits. Consistent respect isn't about perfect performance in isolated moments. It's about developing sustainable practices that maintain your standards and effectiveness regardless of external circumstances or internal emotional states. The foundation of systematic respect begins with what behavioral psychologists call environmental design. Your physical environment, daily routines, and organizational systems either support or undermine your ability to show up as your best self. Consistently. Most people underestimate how much their environment influences their energy levels, decision quality, and emotional regulation throughout the day. Environmental design for respect starts with your personal presentation systems. This means having clothing, grooming, and personal care routines that ensure you always look polished and professional without requiring extensive daily decision-making or preparation time. The goal isn't to be the best-dressed person in every room, but rather to never have your appearance detract from your message or credibility. This systematic approach includes preparing work materials, technology, and resources in advance so that you can focus your mental energy on high-level thinking and relationship building rather than scrambling to find what you need or dealing with preventable technical difficulties. When you're consistently well prepared, people begin to associate you with professionalism and competence. Your workspace organization, whether physical or digital, should support efficient work production and easy access to important information. This isn't about perfectionism or rigid control. It's about creating systems that allow you to perform at your best consistently rather than having your effectiveness depend on whether you happen to be having a particularly organized day. The second component of systematic respect involves communication protocols that ensure your interactions consistently demonstrate your values and professionalism. This includes response time standards for emails and messages, meeting preparation routines, and follow-up systems that show respect for others' time and commitments. Developing personal communication standards means deciding in advance how quickly you'll respond to different types of communication, what information you'll always include in meeting requests, how you'll prepare for important conversations, and what follow-up actions you'll take to ensure commitments are kept. These protocols remove the daily decision-making burden while ensuring that your communication consistently reflects your professional standards. The key to effective communication systems is building in buffers and backup plans for high-stress periods. This might mean preparing template responses for common situations, scheduling regular time blocks for email and administrative tasks, or having predetermined escalation procedures when you're overwhelmed or facing competing deadlines. The goal is maintaining your communication quality even when you're under pressure. Energy management systems form the third pillar of consistent respect. Your energy levels throughout the day dramatically affect your presence, decision-making quality, and interpersonal effectiveness. Rather than hoping you'll feel energetic and focused when important situations arise, systematic energy management ensures you can access your best performance when you need it most. This begins with understanding your natural energy rhythms and scheduling your most important activities during your peak energy periods. For most people, cognitive performance and emotional regulation are strongest during specific times of day. Identifying these windows and protecting them for high-priority tasks maximizes your effectiveness and minimizes the risk of poor performance during crucial interactions. Energy management also includes nutrition, exercise, and sleep protocols that support consistent physical and mental performance. This isn't about perfect adherence to an ideal lifestyle, but rather about having sustainable practices that maintain your baseline energy levels and recovery capacity even during busy or stressful periods. Strategic rest and recovery planning prevents the energy depletion that leads to poor decision emotional reactivity, and diminished presence. This might involve scheduling buffer time between meetings, taking regular breaks during intensive work periods, or having predetermined signals that indicate when you need to step back and recharge before continuing with demanding activities. The fourth system involves continuous skill development and feedback collection that ensures your capabilities keep pace with your responsibilities and opportunities. Respect is ultimately based on competence, and competence requires ongoing learning and refinement of your abilities. Having systematic approaches to skill development prevents the gradual erosion of effectiveness that can undermine long-term respect. This systematic learning includes identifying the specific skills that are most critical for your current and future roles. Creating learning plans with measurable progress indicators and seeking feedback from trusted sources who can provide honest assessments of your performance and areas for improvement. The goal is ensuring that your abilities consistently exceed the requirements of your position rather than just meeting minimum expectations. Regular self-assessment and external feedback collection should be built into your professional routines rather than left to annual performance reviews or crisis situations. This might involve monthly conversations with mentors, quarterly skill assessments, or regular requests for specific feedback on important projects or presentations. The fifth systematic component involves relationship maintenance protocols that nurture your professional and personal networks over time. Respect is ultimately a social phenomenon, and maintaining strong relationships requires intentional, consistent effort rather than sporadic outreach when you need something. Effective relationship systems include regular communication with key contacts, systematic approaches to meeting new people in your field, and organized methods for providing value to others in your network. This isn't about manipulative networking, but rather about maintaining genuine connections that support mutual growth and success. This might involve scheduling regular coffee meetings with important colleagues, systematically attending industry events where you can meet new people and strengthen existing relationships, or having organized approaches to sharing valuable information, making introductions, or offering assistance to people in your network. The key to sustainable relationship systems is making them personally rewarding rather than feeling like obligations or tasks to complete. When you genuinely enjoy supporting others' success and learning from their experiences, relationship maintenance becomes energizing rather than draining. The final systematic element involves reputation monitoring and course correction protocols that help you maintain alignment between your intentions and your actual impact on others. Sometimes there are gaps between how you think you're perceived and how others actually experience your behavior and communication. This requires building feedback loops that give you accurate information about how your actions affect others and how your reputation is developing over time. This might involve regular check-ins with trusted advisors, systematic collection of feedback after important projects or presentations, or monitoring of your professional reputation through various channels. When feedback indicates areas for improvement, having predetermined response protocols helps you address issues quickly and effectively rather than becoming defensive or letting problems compound over time. The goal is maintaining continuous alignment between your values, your behavior, and your reputation rather than hoping that good intentions automatically translate into positive perceptions. The integration of these systems creates what peak performance experts call sustainable excellence. This means that your respect and influence aren't dependent on exceptional effort or perfect conditions, but rather emerge naturally from well-designed habits and systems that support your best performance consistently over time. These systems require initial investment of time and energy to establish, but they ultimately reduce the daily mental and emotional energy required to maintain high standards. When your systems are working effectively, respect becomes a natural byproduct of your consistent excellence rather than something you have to consciously create in each individual interaction. Chapter 11. Mastering Group Dynamics and Social Hierarchies. The ultimate test of respect mastery occurs not in one-on-one interactions, but in group settings where complex social dynamics, competing personalities, and established hierarchies create challenging environments for establishing and maintaining authority. Group situations reveal whether your respect is authentic or merely dependent on controlled individual interactions. Understanding group psychology begins with recognizing that every group operates on multiple levels simultaneously. There's the official structure with designated leaders and formal roles. But there's also an invisible social hierarchy based on perceived competence, likability, and influence. These two hierarchies don't always align, and the most respected individuals learn to navigate both systems effectively. The phenomenon of social proof becomes amplified in group settings because people look to others for cues about how to respond to new individuals. If respected group members treat you with deference and attention, others will automatically assume you deserve similar treatment. Conversely, if influential group members dismiss or ignore you, others will likely follow their lead regardless of your actual qualifications or contributions. This reality makes your first impression with key group influences critical for establishing your overall position within the group. These influencers aren't always the official leaders. They're the individuals whose opinions and reactions carry disproportionate weight with other group members. Identifying and positively connecting with these informal leaders can establish your credibility with the entire group more quickly than trying to win over each individual separately. The strategy for group influence begins with what sociologists call strategic positioning. This involves choosing your physical location, timing of contributions, and alliance formation in ways that maximize your visibility and impact. In group settings, where you sit, when you speak, and who you align yourself with all send powerful signals about your status and confidence level. Physical positioning in groups should demonstrate confidence without appearing aggressive or attention-seeking. This means choosing seats that allow you to see and be seen by the key decision-makers. Positioning yourself where you can make appropriate eye contact with multiple group members and avoiding corners or positions that make you seem like an observer rather than a participant. The timing of your contributions significantly affects how your ideas are received and how your competence is perceived. Speaking too early can make you seem eager to prove yourself, while waiting too long can make you appear passive or unprepared. The most effective timing involves listening carefully to understand the group dynamics and conversation patterns. Then contributing substantive insights when they can add real value to the discussion. Your first contribution to any group discussion sets the tone for how others will perceive your ongoing participation. This initial comment should demonstrate both your competence and your understanding of the group's objectives. It should be substantial enough to show you have valuable perspectives, but not so lengthy that you dominate the conversation or appear to be seeking excessive attention. Coalition building within groups requires understanding that influence often comes through relationships and alliances rather than individual brilliance. The most respected group members are those who can build consensus, facilitate cooperation between different personalities, and help the group achieve collective goals rather than just promoting their own ideas. Effective coalition building begins with identifying shared interests and values among group members, then positioning your ideas and proposals in ways that address multiple people's priorities simultaneously. This isn't about compromising your principles, but rather about framing your contributions in terms that resonate with different group members' perspectives and objectives. The key to successful alliances is providing value to potential coalition partners before asking for their support. This might involve publicly supporting their ideas when appropriate, offering expertise that helps them achieve their goals, or facilitating connections that benefit their projects. When people have positive experiences working with you, they become advocates for your ideas and defenders of your reputation within the group. Managing group conflict requires understanding the difference between productive disagreement and destructive arguing. Groups need diverse perspectives to make good decisions. But they also need respectful processes for evaluating different viewpoints. The most respected group members are those who can disagree with ideas while maintaining respect for the people presenting those ideas. When you disagree with others in group settings, focus your criticism on specific aspects of proposals. Rather than making broad judgments about their overall value, use phrases like "I have concerns about this approach because," or "I see potential challenges with this plan," rather than "that won't work" or "that's a bad idea." This language allows you to present alternative perspectives while maintaining positive relationships. The technique of intellectual generosity involves acknowledging the strengths in others' ideas even when you ultimately disagree with their conclusions. This might sound like "I appreciate the creativity in this approach and I particularly like the focus on user experience. My concern is with the implementation timeline, which seems aggressive given our current resources." This framing shows that you're listening thoughtfully and evaluating ideas fairly rather than just opposing anything you didn't suggest. Group leadership opportunities often arise naturally when you demonstrate the ability to facilitate productive discussions, summarize complex information clearly, and help groups move toward decisions and actions. These leadership moments don't require official appointment. They emerge when groups recognize that your participation makes their work more effective and efficient. Facilitating group discussions involves asking clarifying questions when conversations become unclear, summarizing different viewpoints to ensure everyone understands the options being considered, and suggesting processes for making decisions when groups get stuck in circular discussions. These contributions position you as someone who adds structure and value to group interactions. The skill of reading group energy allows you to adjust your participation based on the collective mood and engagement level. When groups are energetic and engaged, you can contribute more actively and suggest ambitious ideas. When groups are tired or overwhelmed, you might focus on simplifying options, suggesting breaks, or helping prioritize the most important decisions. Social proof creation in groups involves strategically highlighting achievements, credentials, or endorsements that establish your credibility without appearing boastful. This might involve mentioning relevant experience when it directly applies to the discussion, sharing insights from other successful projects, or casually referencing relationships with respected individuals in your field. The key to group social proof is making these credibility demonstrations relevant to the current discussion rather than seeming like random self-promotion. When your expertise directly addresses problems the group is trying to solve, mentioning your relevant experience provides valuable context rather than appearing like status-seeking behavior. Advanced group dynamics include understanding the roles that different personality types typically play in group settings and positioning yourself to complement rather than compete with these natural patterns. This means recognizing when someone else is the natural facilitator and supporting their efforts rather than trying to take over or stepping up to provide structure when the group lacks natural organizers. The ultimate goal of group mastery is becoming someone whose presence improves group outcomes regardless of whether you're officially in charge. This reputation makes groups want to include you in important decisions, seek your input on challenging problems, and defer to your judgment in areas of your expertise. This influence emerges naturally from consistently adding value rather than from political maneuvering or self-promotion. Chapter 12. Crisis, Leadership, and Respect Under Extreme Pressure. The moments that define lasting respect most powerfully are those when everything is falling apart, when pressure is extreme, and when most people are losing their composure and effectiveness. How you perform during crises, emergencies, and high-stakes situations determines whether people see you as someone they can rely on when it matters most or someone whose confidence crumbles under real pressure. Crisis situations reveal authentic character because they strip away the luxury of careful preparation, controlled environments, and predictable interactions. During emergencies, people's true capabilities, values, and emotional regulation skills become visible in ways that routine situations never expose. This is why crisis leadership creates such profound respect. It proves that your competence and composure are real rather than situational. The foundation of crisis leadership lies in what emergency responders call operational calm. This is the ability to maintain clear thinking, steady decision and controlled emotional responses while everyone around you is experiencing panic, confusion, or overwhelming stress. Operational calm isn't about being emotionless. It's about channeling your emotions productively rather than being controlled by them. Developing operational calm requires understanding the physiology of extreme stress and having practiced techniques for maintaining cognitive function when your nervous system is highly activated. During crisis, your body naturally triggers fight or flight responses that can impair complex reasoning, creative problem solving, and collaborative decision making. The most effective crisis leaders have trained themselves to override these automatic responses and access higher-level thinking even under intense pressure. The technique of cognitive override begins with recognizing the early signs of stress activation in your body and mind. These might include changes in breathing pattern, muscle tension, thought speed, or emotional intensity. The moment you notice these signs, you implement predetermined strategies for restoring calm focus rather than allowing the stress response to build momentum. Tactical breathing during crisis involves deeper, slower breaths that activate your parasympathetic nervous system and restore access to your prefrontal cortex where complex reasoning occurs. This isn't about obvious breathing exercises that others might notice, but rather about subtle respiratory control that maintains your cognitive capabilities while appearing completely natural to observers. Mental compartmentalization allows you to acknowledge the severity and emotion of crisis situations while still maintaining the psychological space needed for effective problem solving. This involves temporarily setting aside overwhelming aspects of the situation that you cannot immediately control and focusing your mental energy on factors where your actions can make a difference. The practice involves asking yourself, what can I influence right now and what must I accomplish in the next hour? These questions direct your attention toward productive action rather than getting lost in the magnitude of problems or potential future consequences that are beyond your immediate control. Communication during crisis becomes even more critical than usual because people's ability to process information clearly is often compromised by stress and emotion. Your communication style during emergencies significantly influences others' confidence in your leadership and their willingness to follow your direction when quick action is essential. Crisis communication should be clearer, more direct, and more frequent than normal communication. People under stress need simple, specific instructions rather than complex explanations or multiple options to consider. Your voice tone should remain steady and authoritative while avoiding both panic that would increase others' anxiety and artificial calm that might seem disconnected from the reality of the situation. The principle of transparent confidence involves acknowledging the seriousness of crisis situations while maintaining optimism about your collective ability to address them effectively. This might sound like this is a serious situation that requires our best thinking and quick action. We have the skills and resources to handle this. And here's what we need to do first. This approach validates others' concerns while providing the leadership direction they need. Information management during crisis requires balancing transparency with preventing panic or paralysis. You need to provide enough information for people to understand the situation and make informed decisions, but not so much detail that they become overwhelmed by factors they cannot influence. The key is focusing communication on actionable information rather than comprehensive situation analysis. Decision-making under extreme pressure requires different processes than normal circumstances allow. You often have incomplete information, limited time for analysis, and high consequences for wrong choices. The most effective crisis leaders develop systematic approaches for making good decisions quickly rather than hoping for perfect information or unlimited time for consideration. The technique of rapid decision frameworks involves having predetermined criteria for evaluating options quickly during emergencies. This might include considering which option provides the best risk-reward ratio, which choice preserves the most future options, or which approach aligns best with core values when trade-offs are unavoidable. Progressive decision-making recognizes that crisis situations often require multiple decisions over time rather than one perfect choice that solves everything. This approach involves making the best decision possible with current information, implementing that choice quickly, then gathering new information, and making the next decision based on updated circumstances. This progressive approach prevents the paralysis that occurs when people wait for complete information or perfect solutions before taking any action. It also allows for course correction as situations evolve rather than committing irrevocably to initial plans that may become inappropriate as circumstances change. Chapter 13: Digital Age Respect and Virtual Presence Mastery. The digital revolution has fundamentally changed how respect is established, maintained, and destroyed. Your online presence, virtual communication skills, and digital reputation now significantly influence how others perceive your competence and authority, often before they ever meet you in person. Mastering digital respect requires understanding how traditional influence principles adapt to virtual environments and new platforms. Virtual presence begins with recognizing that digital interactions remove many of the subtle cues that humans naturally use to assess status, competence, and trustworthiness. Facial expressions are less visible on video calls. Body language is partially hidden. Voice quality may be compromised by technology. And the immediate feedback loops of in-person interaction are delayed or absent entirely. This reduction in available information means that the signals you do send digitally carry disproportionate weight in shaping others' perceptions. Your video call setup, email communication style, social media presence, and online professional materials become primary sources of information about your competence and reliability. Video communication mastery requires understanding that virtual meetings create different psychological dynamics than in-person interactions. The camera angle, lighting, background, and audio quality all influence how professional and authoritative you appear to others. Poor technical setup can undermine even excellent content and expertise. The foundation of powerful video presence begins with camera positioning at eye level to create natural eye contact that doesn't make you appear to be looking down at or up toward other participants. Lighting should come from in front of you rather than behind you, ensuring that your facial expressions are clearly visible rather than shadowy or unclear. Your background should be clean and professional without being distracting or obviously artificial. The goal is creating an environment that supports focus on your message rather than drawing attention to your surroundings. This might involve a simple wall, professional office setting, or carefully chosen virtual background that appears natural rather than obviously digital. Audio quality often matters more than video quality for maintaining professional credibility. Poor audio makes it difficult for others to understand your contributions clearly and can create the impression that you're not technically competent or didn't prepare adequately for important meetings. Virtual communication requires adapting your speaking and listening habits to account for technology delays and the reduced ability to read others' nonverbal cues. This means speaking slightly more slowly than normal, pausing longer between speakers to avoid interrupting, and using more explicit verbal cues to signal when you're finished speaking or want to respond to someone else's comments. Email and written communication carry enormous weight in the digital age because they create permanent records that others can review and evaluate repeatedly. Your writing style, response time, and attention to detail in digital communication become ongoing demonstrations of your professionalism and competence. Professional email mastery involves understanding that your messages are often evaluated not just for their content, but for what they reveal about your thinking process, attention to detail, and respect for others' time. This means writing clearly and concisely, organizing information logically, and proofreading carefully before sending messages that represent your professional reputation. Social media presence requires understanding that your online content and interactions contribute to your professional reputation, whether you intend them to or not. Potential employers, clients, colleagues, and collaborators often research your online presence before deciding whether to work with you or trust you with important responsibilities. Professional social media strategy involves being intentional about what you share publicly and how you engage in online discussions. This doesn't mean being artificial or hiding your personality, but rather ensuring that your online presence reinforces rather than contradicts your professional reputation and values. Digital thought leadership allows you to establish expertise and influence through the content you create and share online. This might involve writing articles about your area of expertise, sharing insights about industry trends, or providing valuable resources that help others solve problems or make better decisions. Online reputation management requires monitoring what information about you is available online and taking proactive steps to ensure that your digital presence accurately represents your capabilities and character. This involves both creating positive content that showcases your expertise and addressing any negative or inaccurate information that might damage your professional reputation. Technology competence has become a fundamental aspect of professional respect in the digital age. People who struggle with basic technology tools or who frequently experience technical difficulties are often perceived as less competent overall, regardless of their expertise in other areas. Chapter 14. Cultural Intelligence and Global Respect. In an increasingly connected world, the ability to command respect across different cultural contexts has become essential for personal and professional success. Cultural intelligence involves understanding how respect is defined, demonstrated, and earned in various cultural environments while maintaining your authentic personal brand and values. Cultural respect begins with recognizing that different societies have varying expectations for hierarchy, communication styles, relationship building, and authority demonstration. What signals confidence and competence in one culture may be perceived as arrogance or disrespect in another. The most internationally effective individuals learn to adapt their approach while preserving their core identity and values. The foundation of cultural intelligence lies in understanding the difference between high-context and low-context communication cultures. High-context cultures rely heavily on implied meaning nonverbal cues and shared cultural understanding to communicate effectively. Low-context cultures prefer explicit direct communication with minimal ambiguity or implied meaning. In high-context cultures, respect is often demonstrated through subtle behaviors like appropriate bowing, gift-giving protocols, careful attention to hierarchy in seating arrangements, and understanding complex social rituals that show honor to others. Building credibility in these environments requires patience, observation, and willingness to learn cultural nuances that may seem unnecessary to outsiders, but are essential for acceptance. Low-context cultures typically value directness, efficiency, and individual achievement demonstration. Respect in these environments comes from clear communication, measurable accomplishments, and straightforward professional competence. However, even within low-context cultures, there are significant variations in expectations for formality, relationship building, and authority acknowledgement. Power distance represents another crucial cultural dimension that affects how respect is established and maintained. High-power distance cultures have clearly defined hierarchies with significant difference expected toward authority figures. Low-power distance cultures encourage more egalitarian interactions even when formal hierarchies exist. Understanding power distance dynamics helps you calibrate your behavior appropriately for different cultural contexts. In high-power distance environments, showing appropriate respect for formal authority and following established protocols becomes essential for maintaining your own credibility. In low-power distance contexts, being overly differential can actually damage your perceived competence and leadership potential. Individualistic versus collectivistic cultural orientations create different expectations for decision-making, relationship priorities, and success definition. Individualistic cultures often respect bold personal achievement and independent thinking, while collectivistic cultures may prioritize group harmony and collective success over individual recognition. Communication style adaptation requires understanding cultural preferences for directness, emotional expression, and conflict management. Some cultures value passionate debate and direct disagreement as signs of engagement and honesty, while others prefer subtle disagreement and face-saving approaches that preserve relationships even during conflicts. Relationship building across cultures involves understanding different expectations for personal disclosure, business social boundaries, and trust development timelines. Some cultures prefer to establish personal relationships before conducting serious business, while others maintain clear separations between professional and personal interactions. Nonverbal communication adaptation involves learning how different cultures interpret eye contact, physical distance, touching, gestures, and facial expressions. Many nonverbal behaviors that seem natural and respectful in one culture can be misinterpreted as disrespectful or inappropriate in another. Time orientation differences affect expectations for punctuality, planning timelines, and meeting structures. Some cultures operate on precise schedules with punctuality being essential for respect, while others have more flexible time concepts where relationships and thorough discussion take priority over schedule adherence. Global leadership effectiveness requires developing the ability to inspire confidence and cooperation across multiple cultural contexts simultaneously. This is particularly challenging when leading international teams where different cultural backgrounds create varying expectations for leadership style and authority demonstration. Chapter 15. Integration and 30-Day Transformation Blueprint. Everything you've learned throughout this comprehensive guide means nothing without a systematic plan for implementation and integration into your daily life. Real transformation requires moving beyond intellectual understanding to consistent behavioral change that becomes so natural it happens automatically without conscious effort. The 30-day transformation blueprint is designed to systematically install the respect-building behaviors and mental patterns we've covered while preventing the overwhelm that causes most people to abandon personal development efforts before seeing real results. This isn't about perfecting every technique immediately. It's about building momentum through consistent daily practice that creates compound improvement over time. Week 1 focuses on foundation building through the core internal practices that support all external respect behaviors. These internal changes must be solidified before external techniques will feel authentic and sustainable. Week 1 is about establishing the mindset and energy management practices that make everything else possible. Days 1 through 3 focus entirely on breath control and presence development. Your only goals are mastering tactical breathing in all situations and developing awareness of your energy states throughout the day. Practice the 4-count inhale, 4-count hold, 6-count exhale breathing pattern during normal activities until it becomes automatic rather than conscious effort. Simultaneously, begin noticing your energy levels and emotional states without trying to change them immediately. Simply develop awareness of when you feel centered versus scattered, confident versus insecure, calm versus reactive. This awareness becomes the foundation for all future emotional regulation and presence mastery. Days 4 through 7 add posture and spatial awareness to your breath and energy practices. Focus on spine alignment, shoulder positioning, and grounded stance while maintaining your breathing awareness. Practice taking up appropriate space and moving with intention rather than habitual patterns that may undermine your authority. Week 2 introduces communication foundation skills while maintaining the internal practices from Week 1. This week focuses on voice control, strategic pausing, and basic language precision without attempting advanced persuasion or influence techniques. Days 8 through 10 emphasize vocal development and tonality control. Practice speaking from your core rather than your throat, maintaining steady volume and pace and ending statements with downward inflection that communicates confidence. Record yourself speaking and listen for nervous habits like uptalk, filler words, or rushed delivery that undermine authority. Days 11 through 14 add strategic pausing and language precision to your vocal practice. Focus on eliminating approval-seeking language patterns like kind of, maybe, and if that's okay. Replace hedging language with direct statements that communicate your thoughts clearly without unnecessary qualification or apology. Week 3 combines your foundation skills with basic interpersonal application in low-stakes social situations. This week focuses on reading others, adapting your communication style, and practicing boundary setting without attempting high-level influence or challenging confrontations. Days 15 through 17 emphasize observation and adaptation skills. Practice reading others' personality types, energy levels, and communication preferences while maintaining your centered presence. Focus on matching others' preferred communication pace and style without losing your authentic voice or core confidence. Days 18 through 21 add gentle boundary setting and graceful disagreement to your growing skill set. Practice saying no politely but firmly, expressing different opinions without attacking others' ideas and maintaining your position when pressured without becoming defensive or aggressive. Week 4 integrates all previous skills while adding advanced techniques and challenging situation practice. This week focuses on applying everything you've learned in increasingly difficult real-world situations while maintaining consistency with your foundation practices. Days 22 through 25 emphasize influence application and strategic communication in professional or important personal situations. Practice using reciprocity, social proof, and authority, positioning in natural ways that feel authentic rather than manipulative. Apply personality adaptation and advanced communication techniques during meaningful interactions. Days 26 through 28 focus on handling challenging situations and difficult people while maintaining your composure and respect. Practice the conflict resolution, emotional regulation and boundary maintenance techniques during real confrontations or high-pressure situations. Days 29 and 30 involve integration assessment and future planning. Evaluate your progress. Identify areas that need continued development and create ongoing practice plans for maintaining and expanding your respect-building capabilities. Throughout all 4 weeks, daily practice sessions should include 5 to 10 minutes of intentional skill rehearsal in addition to real-world application. This might involve visualization exercises where you mentally rehearse handling difficult situations, physical practice of posture and breathing techniques, or vocal exercises that strengthen your authority voice. The key to successful transformation is consistency rather than intensity. Small daily improvements compound over time to create dramatic changes in how others perceive and respond to you. Missing occasional days is normal, but abandoning the practice entirely guarantees that you'll remain stuck in old patterns that limit your respect and influence. Tracking your progress involves both objective measures and subjective assessment. Objective measures might include responses to your communication, invitations to important meetings, requests for your opinions, or changes in how others interact with you professionally and socially. The most important long-term success factor is viewing respect development as an ongoing practice, rather than a destination you reach and maintain automatically like physical fitness. Respect and influence require consistent attention and practice to maintain peak performance over time. Advanced practitioners continue refining these skills throughout their careers, adapting techniques for new challenges and deepening their understanding of human psychology and social dynamics. The foundation you've built over these 30 days provides the platform for lifelong growth in your ability to command, respect, and influence positive outcomes in every area of your life. Remember that true respect comes from the integration of competence, character, and authentic confidence. The techniques you've learned are tools for expressing your best self more effectively, not masks for hiding your true identity or value. As you continue developing these capabilities, maintain focus on becoming someone worthy of respect rather than just someone who can create the appearance of respect. The transformation you've begun extends far beyond individual interactions or professional advancement. When you consistently demonstrate the qualities that command genuine respect, you inspire others to raise their own standards and treat all their relationships with greater intention and integrity. Your personal development becomes a contribution to creating more respect